You picked up your phone to check the time. 10 minutes later, you were watching a video of a dog you've never seen before, in a city you'll never visit, doing something that doesn't matter to your life at all. And the worst part? You don't even know exactly how you got there. You just did, automatically. Now here's the thing that nobody really stops to explain. That's not a flaw in you. That's not weakness. And it's not poor self-control. What you just experienced is the output of a system in your brain that was designed over millions of years of evolution to keep you alive, and that system is now being exploited in a way that your biology was never built to defend against. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how that works, and the most unsettling part isn't how social media affects you. It's what this reveals about the nature of addiction itself, because the line between a bad habit and a clinical addiction is much, much thinner than you think. Most of us accept social media as just part of the landscape. We scroll, we post, we check notifications, and we call it a minor bad habit at worst. The conversation usually stops there. But when neuroscientists started studying what happens in the brain during social media use, they found something that made them pause. The patterns they were seeing weren't the patterns of someone enjoying a pleasant activity. They were the patterns of someone using a substance. And that word, substance, is worth sitting with for a second. If you want to keep understanding the science behind what your brain does every single day, without needing any scientific background to follow along, this channel exists exactly for that. Subscribe now. Every video is a new discovery about how you work on the inside. So, the obvious explanation, the one that gets repeated the most, goes something like this. Social media is addictive because it feels good. You get a like, you feel happy. Simple. A reward. And yes, there's truth there, but that explanation is so incomplete that it's almost misleading, because if it were simply about feeling good, you could just do the thing once, feel satisfied, and move on. That's not what happens. What actually happens is something far stranger and far more precise. The key isn't the reward. The key is the unpredictability of the reward. Here's where behavioral neuroscience comes in. In the 1950s, the psychologist B.F. Skinner discovered something that would later become one of the most cited findings in the study of habit and addiction. He put rats in a box with a lever. When the lever was pressed, food came out. At first, the rats pressed the lever, got the food, and were satisfied. Predictable reward, predictable behavior. But then, Skinner changed the setup. He made the food come out only sometimes, randomly. Sometimes the lever worked, sometimes it didn't. And what happened next was remarkable. The rats became obsessed. They pressed the lever compulsively, far more than when the food was guaranteed. The unpredictability didn't reduce the behavior. It amplified it to an extreme degree. This is called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule, and it is, according to behavioral scientists, the single most powerful mechanism for creating compulsive behavior in any animal, including humans. Now look at your feed. Sometimes you scroll and find something incredible. A piece of news that changes how you see the world. A video that makes you laugh harder than you've laughed in days. A post from someone you've been thinking about. And sometimes you scroll and find nothing. Just noise. But you keep scrolling, because maybe the next one will be the good one. Your brain has been placed in Skinner's box. The lever is your thumb, and the food pellet is whatever makes you feel something. The platform doesn't need to reward you every time. In fact, it's specifically designed not to, because that inconsistency is what keeps you coming back. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is the part that most people miss entirely. The dopamine hit isn't coming when you get the reward. It's coming before. Research in neuroscience, including studies from the journal Neuron, has shown that the dopamine system in your brain fires not primarily at the moment of reward, but at the moment of anticipation. Your brain releases dopamine when it predicts that a reward might be coming. This is why the act of opening an app, before you've seen anything, before you know what's there, already triggers a neurochemical response. Your brain has learned that opening Instagram means something interesting might be there. That prediction alone is enough to trigger the release. And because the reward is unpredictable, the prediction never gets extinguished. Every time you open the app, your brain says, "This could be the time," and the chemical response fires again. This is exactly what happens with substances like cocaine and amphetamines. The mechanism isn't identical. Social media doesn't flood the brain with dopamine the way cocaine does. The intensity is different. But the structural mechanism of unpredictable reward-driving compulsive seeking behavior is, neurologically, the same loop. A study published in the journal Psychological Science found that the urge to check social media was, in some contexts, harder to resist than the urge to smoke or drink. Not because social media is more physically powerful, but because it's more accessible, more socially normalized, and engineered with a precision that cigarettes and alcohol simply can't match. Now pause here, because what you just learned changes something important about how you see this whole thing. The companies that build these platforms know this, not in a vague, intuitive way. They employ teams of behavioral scientists, neuroscientists, and psychologists whose specific job is to understand exactly how the reward cycle works, and then tune the platform to exploit it as efficiently as possible. The pull to refresh gesture on your phone? It was deliberately modeled on the slot machine lever. The infinite scroll, no bottom, no endpoint where the brain can register completion, was designed to prevent the natural stopping point that any finite list would create. Notification timing is calibrated not just to inform you, but to interrupt you at moments when re-engagement is most likely. These are not accidents. They are features. They are the product of deliberate, data-informed behavioral engineering aimed at one goal: keeping you in the box, pressing the lever. But there's one more layer to this that almost nobody considers when they think about social media and addiction. And it makes everything you just learned even harder to escape. The social reward layer makes this even more complex. Because social media doesn't just trigger the dopamine anticipation loop, it taps into something even older and more fundamental: the human need for social validation. Your brain evolved in small groups of 50 to 150 people. Being liked, accepted, and recognized by your group wasn't just pleasant, it was survival. Rejection from the group, in evolutionary terms, meant death. The neural circuits that respond to social approval are among the oldest and most powerful in the human brain. When you post something and people respond, when you see that someone liked what you said, agreed with you, laughed at your joke, the response in your brain isn't just dopamine. It's the activation of a system that was built to register something as important as "I am safe, I am part of the group, I will survive." Social media has digitized that signal and made it available on demand, at any hour, from hundreds of people simultaneously. No human brain evolved to process that volume of social input, and no human brain has a natural ceiling for wanting more of it. So when you notice that you reach for your phone without really deciding to, that you feel a subtle anxiety when you haven't checked in a while, that you intended to spend 2 minutes and spent 30, that's not a character flaw. That's a brain running a behavioral loop that was engineered to be very difficult to interrupt. The mechanism is real. The engineering is intentional. And now you know exactly what it is. Here's what the science actually reveals about all of this, and it's the thing worth sitting with long after this video ends. The same neural architecture that social media exploits is the architecture that drives human curiosity, social bonding, and the search for meaning. The dopamine anticipation system exists because our ancestors needed to seek, explore, and find. The social validation circuits exist because community is genuinely essential to human well-being. These are not weaknesses. They are core features of what it means to be human. What's new, what's historically unprecedented, is that these features are now being targeted by systems operating at a scale, speed, and precision that no human brain was ever designed to encounter. Understanding that doesn't make the pull disappear, but it changes what you're fighting. You're not fighting your weakness. You're fighting an optimization system designed by thousands of engineers specifically to defeat your brain's natural defenses. Knowing that is the beginning of something different. Have you spent more time on your phone today than you planned? Tell me in the comments, which app was it? And how long did you actually mean to stay versus how long you stayed? What you've spent your whole life feeling like a bad habit has a scientific name, a precise mechanism, and an entire industry built to keep it running.